Chapter 20. It was like another world on the other side of the mountain. There were more trees, as though they'd come to bask in the air, and they were fully alive. The snow was damp and shallow, and halfway down the mountain they came across a stream that had formed as it melted. They would find, as they went farther, that the stream fed into the river they'd spotted from atop the mountain. They began shedding layers of clothing, and eventually stuffed all the winter clothes into one of their packs and left it hanging on a tree to be retrieved on their way back to Missawa. The journey itself was faster, not only because they were heading down the mountain, not up it, and not because the weather was forgiving, but because they were excited for what was happening around them and what lay ahead. By mid-morning, they'd come to the foot of the mountain, and they stopped there to eat. They made it a quick meal so they could get back on foot and to the cabin as soon as possible. Nobody seemed to care that this meal was the last meal their rations would provide them. "This is how it used to be," Ochek said after they started walking again. Patches of grass were sticking out through the snow. "The closer we are to the green time, the more I can remember." He bent down and picked a blade of grass from the ground. "When we were out on the land, we had only the next meal. If we didn't catch anything, we didn't eat. It's the way it was. Chaos? Long ago," Eli translated for Morgan. "What he's trying to say in his Ochek way is not to worry," Eric said, "if you were worried at all." "I've been on the land just like this," Eli said. "You were happy on the land when the land was only snowflakes and ice," Ochek said. "It all feels like home," said Eli. "If I had a choice, though, it wouldn't be in the middle of a blizzard." "Oh, good," Morgan said. "At least I know you're not bonkers, even though it looked like you were trying to make friends with that wolf." "Everybody deserves a second chance," Ochek answered before Eli could. As they got farther down the mountain, they could see an actual path in front of them that wound through the woods, and the thin line of water they'd seen on the mountain now formed into a brook. Seeing for the first time an opportunity to drink something other than melted snow, they rushed over to the fresh water. Eli and Morgan drank so much that they felt like bursting. It was cold and refreshing and like nothing they'd tasted before. "We'll find something for dinner," Ochek said. "The water means there will be four-legged ones." "I won't have to steal from your traps anymore," Eric said. "And I won't almost have to eat you." "Well, I guess we're all happy then, aren't we?" Eric shoved Ochek playfully. "However, I have a feeling you just might miss me, oh grumpy one." Ochek grinned. "You just might be right, oh annoying one." At midday, they came to the place they'd seen from the mountain, where the snow ended almost in a straight line and gave way to the green time. They stood there with their toes on the line, pointing towards the long, thick grass, the brook and the flowers by its banks, and the trees with their fullness. It was all too much for Ochek. He placed his paws on the other side of the line before anything else, then his forehead, and he started to sob. The other three knelt beside him and placed their hands on him for comfort. The land had started to come alive as they'd walked down the side of the mountain, but where they were now, the warmth really began. Morgan stroked Ochek's back, his body now half in the green time and half on the other side, and she could feel the difference in temperature on the back of her hand. On one side of the line, it was like a cool day in spring. On the other side, a summer day in June. The other two must have noticed this, because soon they weren't comforting Ochek but testing the sensation of moving their hands from one side of the line to the other. Then all at once they started to laugh, and even Ochek's sobs turned to deep laughter. The animal being straightened himself but was unwilling to fully cross over the line, as though it was a sacred place. Wonder and awe stuck in the air and fell over them, just the weight of it, until a snowball struck the back of Ochek's head. He whipped around, more surprised than angry. What was... As soon as Ochek had spoken, and before he could react, another snowball connected with his face. Bits of snow stuck to his fur. Now he did look angry, but this lasted only until he saw Eli's enormous smile, which was infectious. He'd backed away from the group into the cold side without any of them noticing. Ochek licked away the snow. "Just what do you think you're doing?" "It's a snowball," Eli said. "Try it." "But we have important work left." Another snowball hit Ochek on the shoulder. Morgan had a mischievous look on her face and snow on her hands. Eli and Morgan reloaded with a snowball, swiping their hands across the ground and fashioning the collected snow into perfectly round balls. "It looks like we're having a mutiny." Eric stood beside Ochek. She'd watched how the Foster siblings had made their weapons, and she had made one of her own. She held it at the ready. "It appears that we do." Ochek made one too. And there the four of them were, the animal beings side by side, facing the humans. Each had a snowball in hand, cocked and ready to throw. Each side waited for the other to make the first move. What followed was the most epic snowball fight that has ever been fought, either on Earth or ASCII, with both teams standing strong, bravely getting hit, throwing as many as possible at the same time, and laughing the whole way through. And, at least for the time being, there was not a care in the world. The wolf was at the top of the mountain recovering from his wounds, and the man was still too far away to hear their battle. When it was all over, all four of them ended up on the ground laughing hysterically, with the area between them completely cleared of snow, as they'd used it all for snowballs. They were soaking wet, and their stomachs hurt from laughing, and each of them was utterly distracted from the last and most crucial part of their journey. Eventually, without a word exchanged between the four, just knowing looks, they remembered what needed to be done and felt ready for it. It was like their fun had given them the energy of a full night's rest. They got up, stood side by side, with their toes on the line, crossed over it, and continued towards the cabin. They didn't head there directly. Ochek made a point of stopping several times and didn't seem to care about prolonging the last leg of their journey. He stopped at the banks of the river to pull sweetgrass, because all they had back at Missawa was one braid of it in the council hut. He stopped to eat berries at a tree and to load some in his backpack to bring home to the elders. He stopped to collect some cedar leaves and bark, which he stored with the sweetgrass. "I've not seen any of these things fresh since before the white time," he explained. They weren't more than 100 yards from the lake that surrounded the island the man's house was on when Ochek stopped again. This time it wasn't to marvel at the most mundane thing, like a dandelion or some sort. Rather, he had a confused look on his face, which soon gave way to concern as he carefully observed the world around them as far as he could see. "What is it?" Eli asked. "There's no game," Ochek said. "Not a four-legged creature on the land, not a bird in the sky, not one fish in the water. Nothing." He turned towards them. "Have any of you seen anything?" None of them had. "Maybe we just missed them all," Morgan said. "You only just now started really looking after all," Eric pointed out. "Well, look now," Ochek demanded. They scanned the area carefully. The water and the sky and the land. They could see a long way in every direction. Ochek was right. There was no game to be seen, so no game to be caught. "Well, this doesn't make sense," Morgan said. "Where could they have gone? And where else would they go?" She ran over to the river and peered into the water, hoping to see something, anything. But the river was empty, just like the land, just like the sky. She sat on the riverbank. The others sat beside her. Eric put her paw on Ochek's shoulder. "No Pisiskiu in their right mind would leave a place like this. Heck, I'm not sure I'm going to come back with you three." She chuckled, but nobody laughed, and she must have realized it wasn't time for jokes. She turned serious. "There has to be another reason why they've all gone. That's what I'm trying to say. It doesn't mean that when we bring the green time back to Missawa, there won't be yummy things to eat." "I'm not sad because I think they've left," Ochek said. "I don't think they've run away anywhere." "So you think we're playing an elaborate game of hide and seek?" Eric asked. "That's stupid," Morgan said. Eli said, "They're dead." Ochek took a long breath in and let it out. The boy is right. They're not hiding, and they haven't run away. They've been killed. What? Morgan said, by the man? Humans. Ochek watched the swift water pass them by for a moment that seemed to stretch on. The land provides everything that people would need. If you take only what you need, the land renews itself so that it can provide more. Medicine, water, plants, meat. In exchange, because we don't really have anything the land wants, we honor it for what it gives us. Ochek turned towards Eric and the children. When you take more than the land can provide, it stops giving. It can't give any more. That's what's happened here. That's what happens with the humans. You mean us? Eli asked. Ochek nodded regretfully. That's crap, Morgan said. We've been here with you for so long now, and all we've done is help. She stood up to face Ochek eye to eye. We haven't taken any more than what was given. Not every human is the same. Maybe you just haven't had a chance to show me otherwise, Ochek said. Well, what have we shown you already? Eli asked. The man came here and was accepted, Ochek said. He showed us what you have shown me, and then he showed what was his true nature. But we would never take more than what we need, Morgan shouted. She heard her mother whisper to her ear in that moment. For the first time, she felt she knew something about herself that she had long forgotten. She belonged in a place like this. She belonged on the land. She'd never felt more at home than during the days she had spent on Aski. Don't make us go, Eli pleaded. That's what you're saying, right? Ochek looked at them intensely. First Morgan, then Eli. Maybe you aren't the same as the man. The others that came before the man, they were indigenous like you both, and they never wavered. We won't either, Morgan said. Esqueces, Ochek said, and since embarking on this journey, you have said more than once that you and Eli could go home, and that you should go home. Well, I know, but I'll give you the choice right now. Go home where it's safe, and where this place will live on in the stories that you tell one another. You will always be welcome in Missawa. Well, this isn't like Hawaii, someplace you go just because the weather's bad in Winnipeg, Eli said. Missawa feels more like home than any of those places. And what are these places, Hawaii and Winnipeg? I thought you both came from Earth, Eric said. It's like Aski is Earth and Missawa is Winnipeg, Morgan said, something like that. And Hawaii? Eric asked. Like the South Country? Morgan tried. Is there a South Country? There's got to be, right? Esqueces, Ochek said. Right. Morgan said, you're right. She had said that they could go home more than once. They could have turned around at any point and gone back to Earth. Maybe we should go, she thought. How much harder could it be to defeat a human after they've defeated a wolf? Ochek and Eric could do it without them, couldn't they? Shouldn't they? What if something happened to Eli? What would she ever say to James and Katie? Eli was her responsibility. And Ochek had said it himself. They would always be welcome here. They could come minus the danger. Morgan, Eli said, why are you even thinking about this? Well, because I'm your big sister, and I have to think about keeping you safe. That's my job, she said. You're my big sister? He asked. Well, that kind of just came out, she said, but yeah. She looked him over, thought about all the time they'd spent together, everything they had gone through. She didn't want to be without him, here or on Earth. Yeah, you're my brother. Then don't make me leave here, Eli said. Please. They can do it without us, Morgan reasoned, echoing the thoughts she'd just run in her mind. No, Eric said. We can't. How would you even know that? Morgan asked. You'll see, Eric told her, one day. Ochek extended his paw. Come with us then. We have a lot left to do. Eli's face was all Morgan needed to see. If he really was her little brother, then how could she ever live with herself if she made them leave now? Maybe Eric was right. Maybe they, Eric and Ochek, really couldn't do it without them. Could they overcome the wolf on their own? And what if Ochek killed Eric? She and Eli had stopped him. The white time would never have a chance to end. If there was still a chance it might not, was there really a choice at all? Morgan took Ochek's paw.